If you're an artist who is waiting to feel confident before putting yourself out there, this is important. The thing about confidence is that most of us have been approaching it backwards. This is a super simple shift in thinking that completely changed my life, so I wanted to share it with you as well. Hey everyone, I'm Belle Reid and welcome back. So today I want to talk about something that's been on my mind a lot lately, which is confidence. Or more specifically, about how we often wait to feel confident before taking action on our goals and our dreams, and how doing this might be holding you back. I wanted to make this video because I know that there are so many people in this community who are incredibly talented, have amazing ideas, big projects, and just exciting, inspiring dreams. But I also know, because I've gotten a lot of DMs and emails from folks, that many of you have feelings of doubt and insecurities around your abilities, fear of putting yourself out there. And I've heard from a lot of you things like, I hope one day I'll feel confident enough to move forward with my goals. Now, if you feel this way, first of all, please know you are not alone, not even in the slightest. Even the big famous musicians who you admire and look up to have feelings of insecurity and doubts at times. We all do. We're human. But I also want to propose a new way of thinking about confidence that I think is really going to help. So first things first, I want to start by defining the word confidence. What is confidence? The thing that probably comes to mind is that confidence is a feeling, right? It's that feeling you get when you're secure in your ability to do something. Maybe it's a feeling of self-assurance or a kind of feeling of trust in yourself. The trouble with thinking about confidence in this way is that we tend to want to wait until we feel it before we take action. We wait until we feel ready. We wait until we feel secure. We wait until we feel confident, right? Telling ourselves that once we have that confidence, then we'll be able to do the scary thing, like releasing our album or submitting the grant proposal or getting up on stage in front of people. But where does confidence actually come from? How can we create it or build it for ourselves? Some of you may already be familiar with my backstory that I shared in a recent video. But in short, I was not born a confident musician. I struggled for years with debilitating performance anxiety and self-doubt, wondering if I would ever be able to really do this whole music thing, wondering if I'd ever feel confident in myself. After many years of trial and error, working with some amazing mentors and coaches, here's what I discovered as the truth about confidence that really changed my life. This is what has made the difference between me quitting and giving up on music altogether and finding my path and being able to build the career that I have now. It's also had a huge impact on so many of my students as well. Confidence doesn't come from waiting. Confidence comes from taking action, most often long before we actually feel ready to do so. So here's the modified definition of confidence that I like to use. Instead of thinking about it as a feeling, as something that we must have in order to be ready or capable or trusting in ourselves, what if instead you thought of confidence as simply being willing to try? Being willing to try something before you're fully prepared. Being willing to take a first step to plug in your microphone, sign up for the class you've been thinking about, or go to the open mic at your local coffee shop, even though you don't yet fully feel confident or sure of how it's all going to go. This idea of having a willingness to try, it also means that you're accepting the fact that everyone has to start somewhere. And when you're doing something new and unfamiliar, chances are you're not going to be good at it at first. And that's okay. That's part of the process. Sucking at something a little bit at first is how you get good at it in the long run. I want to tell you a quick story about how this idea showed up in my life in a big way early on when I was a music student. So back when I was in my first year of college. One of the very first performances I ever did was in front of a panel of teachers at my school. It was an end of semester juried performance, and I totally crashed and burned. I was told by one of the teachers that I should practice and wait until I was really ready to perform again. So I took their advice and I locked myself in a practice room, and I practiced and I practiced and I practiced, and I waited for that feeling of readiness to arrive. And you know what happened? It didn't show up. Even though I was putting in the hours and practicing every single day, that feeling of confidence in myself that I was really craving was not growing at all. One day, as I was sitting in my practice room, it sort of dawned on me that through all of this work I was doing, I actually wasn't moving closer to my goal of being a good performer. What I was really doing was I was getting really good at practicing. I realized that if I wanted to get good at performing, I was actually going to have to do it. And I also kind of realized in that moment that if I waited until I felt confident enough to begin, I would probably be waiting forever. I knew in that moment I wasn't ready to walk out on a big stage in front of hundreds of people. So I decided to start really small. I didn't feel ready. I did not feel confident, but I decided to do a mini performance in my living room for just my roommate. It was not very good. I still got nervous, but the performance happened. And so for me, that was a big win. A few days later, I did another one, and this time I invited over a friend. Over time, performing for my roommate and performing for my best friends gradually started to feel natural. So I started to expand until I was performing for an entire room of people and feeling pretty good about it. So this experience taught me something that completely changed my life forever. That feeling of confidence that I was waiting for, it doesn't just magically appear one day. It's something that you can actually create. And the way that you create it is by taking action. Confidence comes from action, not the other way around. Right? By taking small steps, you build confidence in yourself. You build confidence in your ability to continue to grow. And this is a process that happens gradually, step by step. So this pattern has shown up many, many different times throughout my life, whether it was learning modular synths or starting to compose my own music or even starting this YouTube channel. I never really felt ready when I got started. I never really had a moment where all of a sudden the confidence appeared and said, okay, now you can begin. Instead, there was just a desire to do the thing and a decision point where, despite not feeling fully ready, I took a first step and then a second step and then a third and so on. There's a concept that I teach at the beginning of all of my online courses and programs that I call imperfect action. And the idea behind imperfect action is super simple. It's just about prioritizing imperfect forward motion or imperfect steps over getting things perfect. So in my synthesis class, for example, it's sometimes tempting for students to want to get stuck in study mode. They tell themselves, I need to learn everything perfectly before I start making music. I need to understand my synth, my instrument, my tools, all the techniques perfectly, and then I'll be ready to make music with them. But the idea of imperfect action flips that around and encourages you to start making music with what you have and what you know right now. And of course, there will be more to learn, more techniques, more tools. I believe, honestly, that there will always be more to learn. But if you have a dream or a goal of learning how to play an instrument or scoring a film or performing live or releasing a record, the best thing that you can do to move toward that is to start taking steps in that direction today, before you have all the pieces figured out, and even if you don't know how it's all going to work out. Don't wait to feel confident before beginning. Instead, try to think of confidence as simply having a willingness to try. Now, to be clear, when I talk about treating confidence as a willingness to try, a willingness to jump in before you know all the answers, I'm not suggesting that you should just stop practicing, stop refining your skills, and dive in headfirst with no preparation at all. And at the same time, imperfect action doesn't mean that you don't care about the results, you don't care about the quality of your work. Instead, this is about simply noticing places in your life where you might be unintentionally getting in your own way because you're waiting for some kind of external feeling or some kind of impossible level of perfection to be achieved before moving forward. The real way to build confidence is simple. It's just to take action, step by step toward your goal. Get comfortable with things kind of sucking a little bit at first because that's the way we learn, right? Pay attention to what's working, pay attention to what's not working, and simply keep going. Now, I know that sometimes when we hear advice and stories like this, it can be easy to create a separation between the person that we're seeing giving the advice and where we are at the moment. It's easy to tell ourselves stories like, well, that's nice, it worked for them, but it could never work for me. And one of the things that I have found most helpful in combating that feeling of separation is to look for evidence of other people who are doing the thing and living in this way. So I asked a handful of students from my class, Learning Sound and Synthesis, if they would be willing to share their stories about one time when embracing imperfect action and embracing a willingness to try has had a big impact on their lives.
Hi, my name's Jay. I was really in two minds about sharing something in an open mic session as part of Sarah's course group, but I decided to go for it anyway. All I had was some whale noises. I didn't even really think of it as music. I shared it, got some great feedback, and now a couple of months later I've incorporated it into a performance piece and I'm going to perform it in public with a couple of friends on synths. And I think the thing I learned from this is that when you share something, it helps you see your own work in a different way.
When I was invited to play a show for the first time, I didn't feel fully ready, but I said yes anyway. This led to more shows, further collaborations, lifelong friendships, and confidence as an improviser.
Even though I felt I was unable to create music because I had no musical background and other misgivings, I decided to try a different approach by experimenting with a small Eurorack case based around the Benjamin synthesizer and discovered the joys of live, improvised composition from following the sound and living in its moment. And as a result, I now have an approach to creating and performing music that I really enjoy.
I embrace imperfect action as a daily practice because it fuels my momentum. I think before using this as a tool, I could get very conflicted and kind of self-oppressed. Now I am all based on process and practice, and I share based on my practice and process, and that allows for a lot of really great camaraderie and feedback and support, and it feels good. Like I get a lot of momentum out of this, and it also brings out a natural confidence that because I'm basing my sharing and my actions on my love for music and my love for creating music, and there's a joy in it, I can celebrate that.
One way I jumped in before feeling fully ready was to sign up for an LSS open mic with just a vague idea of what I might play 10 days hence. As a result, I learned how much fun it was to play for other people. I started playing at open mics, and to date I have played 2 performances in bars in Los Angeles, and another one probably coming up in February.
High expectations in music creation are both my gift and a trap. Back in those days I hit a creative block. I wasn't able to move forward. So I decided to change the rules I had set for myself. Despite my lack of confidence, I began recording all my live sessions with modular, with piano, and letting those recordings sit untouched in order to return later to listen. Now, with time and distance, these recordings reveal quite big magic for me because I'm free from harsh expectations at that moment, and every playback inspires me. That's how I move forward every day since. So that's my story of embracing imperfection.
At some point I realized that lack of confidence is only a lack of doing. When I replaced lack of doing with doing, I gained self-knowledge, I gained experience, more connection to my music and my instruments, reinforcement and routines, and also started understanding that lack of confidence is full of other people's thoughts and full of assumptions.
One way I jumped in before feeling fully ready was to post to a friendly online synth contest. This resulted in some great comments, and every month I continued to improve and grow as an artist.
When I'm nervous about trying something new or feeling not confident about putting myself out there, it's usually because I'm worried about making a mistake or I'm worried about doing it wrong. But the truth is, we all make mistakes. And over the years, I've learned to give myself permission in advance to make those mistakes, and I make a deal with myself to just keep going anyway. And I'll let you in on another little secret. Most people don't even notice when you make a mistake.
I remember the first time I was invited to do a modular performance. I totally wasn't ready at all. Before I'd just be doing little patches and put them into the DAW, but to do something in real time, it was really daunting. So when I was invited, it took me a couple days, and I thought about it, and then I thought, let's just do it. So I did. I had to totally figure out how to do it though. I went and had to redo my whole workflow to do everything in real time, but it turned out good. And after the performance, I had, a few hundred extra people started listening to my music, so it turned out awesome.
Even though I felt I was far from being ready, I decided to take action by completing a number of songs I had recorded, by being willing to make mistakes and accept imperfection as a part of the creative process. And as a result, I am now planning a record release party to be followed by others.
The first time I was asked to play an improvised show, I didn't feel fully ready at all, but I knew I wanted to challenge myself to jump in and take action. It was not perfect performance, but it was such an amazing experience that grew my confidence and commitment to just do more. And slowly but surely, I built confidence to do bigger projects, more shows, and become a fully fledged improviser. I'm now working on releasing a fully improvised album and going on tour with my band. So I'm so grateful that I pushed myself that one time to just take the first step and take action.
I was asked to score a short film entirely on synths, and I had zero experience really with either. And even though I had no confidence at all that I could actually pull it off, I also knew that I would probably never get this opportunity again. So I just dove in. But as a result of that, it did give me the courage to say yes when I was recently asked to score a piece for a local theater group and to collaborate on a couple of albums. And if I had waited until things were perfect or I felt confident, I would still be waiting.
These are people just like you who have goals and ideas and dreams, and also sometimes fears and insecurities and doubts. But by focusing on a willingness to try over needing to feel confident every step of the way, they have all made incredible progress in their creative lives, and they're just getting started. All right. That's it for today. I hope you found this video helpful. I'd love to hear in the comments if there is something that you're feeling inspired to take action towards. And if you know anyone who you think might benefit from hearing this today, please share this video with them. I'll leave some links in the description of this video to a handful of free resources that you can check out if you're curious to learn more about synthesis and electronic music. I'll also leave a link to the waitlist for my class, Learning Sound and Synthesis, which I open 1 to 2 times a year. And I'll leave a link for my Patreon community in case you're curious to check that out. If you have any questions about any of my classes or anything else, you're always welcome to send me a DM. As always, thank you so much for watching and for listening, and I'll see you next time.